Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, what is up? The King of Lightning here today, bringing you guys and gals Toriko, la la, Toriko, chapter 354 review. If for some reason you have not seen the live reaction to the chapter just yet, and mind you, it's been almost a week, but don't fret. There will be an annotation right here, as well as a link in the box below. Now, that being said, this chapter, Toriko, from a structure standpoint, is relatively simple. Basically, it's three parts. You have Toriko and Starjun versus the Piece of Acacia. Then you have the Wolf King step, where he eviscerates that piece of Acacia, the shockwaves, the force, the explosion, and whatnot. Then you have the PostWolf King step, where he marks the territory. He blitzes across hundreds of kilometers in an instant speed up the goddamn dickhole. Yo, it's crazy. Whatever, don't question me. Don't question me, alright? And he appears to where Toriko and Starjun are, and he takes them out. Not even a fight, he just takes them out. He sniffs, and then they're done. For the most part. We don't know how it's going to pan out just yet, because we're not too sure what is exactly happening there. But for the most part, it looks like Toriko and Starjun, for the moment, are bested by the Wolf King. So, overall structure, pacing, that's okay. Simple, straightforward. Now, when it comes to characterization, this is where the chapter shines, in my personal opinion, because that's where the bulk of the chapter is. Because not only are we seeing the Wolf King do, so it's mainly on the Wolf King's end, and it's on Starjun's end, where you have Starjun display a power, which I think is, to say the least, absolutely insane. Now, he has this thing called Gourmet Clairvoyance. It is his third eye, his Gourmet Demon's Eye. And according to him, his Gourmet Demon's Eye can lock onto any target, and it will forever see that target. Now, in a Manga Stream, Manga Panda translation, it was stated that the target can even be viewed if it leaves and goes into space. In a Batoto translation, it is stated that the eye can view you even if the target is in the furthest reaches of space. That brings a whole new meaning to Starjun's Gourmet Clairvoyance power. Even if the target is at the furthest ends of space, Starjun could still view his target. That is absolutely insane. Who the hell? That is absolutely crazy. Looney Tune status. Broken. So you can't escape his gaze. If Starjun chooses to see you, he will see you. Even if you're eating a meal, even if you're taking a shit on Venus, he's looking at you. Hey, yo. Like, that's, oh, holy hell. So Starjun, a very impressive ability. That's no doubt about that. And then, on top of that, getting to see the power of the Wolf King. The Wolf King is just like every other king. He takes on the piece of Acacia. He absolutely destroys that piece of Acacia. Because that piece of Acacia, well, granted, it is powerful. Powerful enough to actually withstand the attacks of Toriko and Starjun. However, all the Wolf King needed was one stomp, and it was done. It was done. And not only that, but the stomp itself sent quote-unquote ripples throughout the entire planet. Ripples, just saying. And the explosion itself was massive. Where if Toriko and Starjun were not anchored to the ground, they would have been sent tens of thousands of kilometers. We're talking the entire circumference of planet Earth, flying across the Gourmet world. Absolutely crazy. Or at least in Area 2, because Gourmet World is massive in of itself. So it's absolutely insane. just the raw power of the Wolf King. So the Wolf King follows in suit compared to every other 8 king, with the exception of Dragon King, because he hasn't done shit, obviously, and Moon, because Moon, there was no confrontation. It was touchdown done. Moon is the only one that engaged with the piece of Acacia, but had no legitimate confrontation. The piece just hit the water, black hole, you're already dead, bro. By the time you touch a drop of water, you're already dead. Like, it's absolutely insane. So, the fact of the matter here is that the Wolf King does follow in suit. And then finally, the Wolf King, aside from its raw physical power, to where it can eviscerate a piece of Acacia with one step, it also displays a unique nose ability. So we have crazy nose powers across the globe of Toriko. You have Heracles with the insane breath attacks. You got Toriko who can sniff the world. Seikai. Whoa. And then finally, we wrap it up with the Wolf King, who can, what I think is, he's sniffing away your Gurmei energy to the point where he's sniffing away your soul. Because, or maybe he's actually sniffing away your appetite itself. It could be a slew of different things. But the fact of the matter is that the Wolf King is sniffing away something. When the piece of Acacia was diving towards Toriko and company, it missed because in mid-flight, something was sniffed away from it by the Wolf King. Now, it was able to recover. That's very important to keep in mind. The piece was able to recover. However, even though it recovered, it was too late. And the Wolf King just said no and stomped and it was over. So, the fact that the piece of Acacia was able to recover, this means that Starjin and Toriko, whatever happened to them, they can recover. But what did it actually sniff away? I'm not too sure. In the last panel, we see Toriko's face, like, leave his, like, almost as if like his soul, like, left his body. And, like, you can see, like, his actual body, his hair turns white and whatnot. So, it could be soul, it could be the soul that is Gurmei energy, because we do know that the soul world that constitutes Toriko is a Gurmei energy based zone with, like, where only consciousness can reside. However, there is nirvana in Toriko. There is a heaven, apparently. Because that happened to the Gurmei demons within the Gurmei soul world because of another. When Komatsu cooked another, they were so satisfied that they went up to nirvana. So it is what it is. But the fact of the matter is that it could be that. It could be their appetite. It could be a lot of things. But he's doing something with that nose, and it's crazy. So that's on the characterization standpoint of things. And then finally, we have the story progression. Where story progression-wise, basically, it's relatively simple because you have the Wolf King take out the piece of Acacia, and he has a unique power, like every other 8 king, which is no real surprise there. But what is a reoccurring theme is what happened with Toriko and Starjin when they faced off against the piece of Acacia, where the piece of Acacia, it awakened the Gurmei demons within Toriko and Starjin. So they had to act upon themselves to take out the piece of Acacia. Now they failed, but they came out by themselves. I mean, Red's like, Toriko, get out of the fucking way, you're too slow. Like, yeah, Jet Fork, fire Jet Fork. And this happened before with Blue and Heracles. This happened again with Bambina. So it's a reoccurring thing, where if the opponent is extraordinarily strong, the Gurmei demons themselves come out and they try and take on the opponent, because in Toriko and Starjin's base form they just can't do it. So overall, the chapter, I think, based on all of this, is a relatively good chapter. Its strongest point is characterization and story progression, whereas the pacing is relatively okay, not a big deal. But the strongest point is characterization. So the chapter overall is a good chapter, and I do want to end on this note, where I'm kind of surprised that Toriko could. Okay, let me say it like this: Toriko was able to sock Guinness in the face. Right? He had awakened the same drive that he had when he first was looking for Komatsu. and he was able to punch Guinness in the face. So I'm thinking Toriko can go full on head to head with Guinness after he was able to punch him in the face. The way Mitsutoshi wrote it, it was as if these two forces, Toriko and the Wolf King, they were like natural calamities. And they were just butting heads. But now, Toriko is getting absolutely murked by a sniff. He's murked. So, I'm not too sure here. But I think Mitsutoshi was just giving us a spec as to Toriko's true scope of power. When he has the drive, when he has the ambition, when he has the intensity that he had long ago, or 2 years ago. And that same intensity was at its peak when he was facing up against the Wolf King. But now, it may have dwindled down a little bit. Therefore, Wolf King is now vastly over Toriko. I mean, as it should be. But given the way things were rolling initially, I would figure Toriko could handle anything that came his way via the Wolf King. But perhaps, because this is the beginning of their confrontation, so perhaps Toriko will be able to bounce back fairly easily. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. And it depends on what exactly the Wolf King sniffed away. So, again, the chapter is going to be good, and I'm done. So, KOL Gaming, rate the video, comment, and subscribe as always. Peace. Have a nice goddamn day. Yeah.